You already know what time it is. Hey, let's go. What up, Doug? It's your anthem, homie. Let's do it. What up, Doug? 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 Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. This say go. What up, Doug? 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 Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's go. 7 points on the board. Touchdown. You can never ignore. Let's go. When we into the end zone, take a look at the score. Bryce Young out here throwing dots. O-line out here holding blocks. We too real, no Photoshop. Just a few things that Doug talk about. What up, Doug? When they see it in public, they showing them love. Uncle Quan, what's up? Panther Nation, it is time to go up. Really in the field capturing, acknowledging players who talented. Doug is bringing the analysis. The defensive beats when they tackle it. The front seven rush got them panicking. The pressure's too much, they can't handle it. You come in the Bank of America Stadium, this is where it get challenging. You hear this song, it's time to tune in and turn it up. You gotta turn it up. If you listen and say it what time with me is, we all repeat and we scream. What up, Doug? 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 Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. This say go. What up, Doug? 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 Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's go. Shout out to my man, what's up, Doug? Make sure y'all tune in and tap into his journey and everything that he's doing. Carolina forever, Panther Nation. It's go time, let's go. What up, Doug? Bow, bow. What up, Doug? Bow, bow. Let go.
What's going on, Panther Nation? It's your man C Dougie here with another episode on What's Up, Doug, man. Football is back. We got games on tonight, man. Got another incredible guest joining us, had boots on the ground with the Panthers, with fans not being there, man. So pull up a chair, go grab your favorite snack, go grab your favorite drink, and let's get it popping tonight, man. Also, at the end of the live, for those that do not know, we are PSL owners. We will be giving away our PSL ticket for tomorrow's game. So if you are not a member, you have to grab a membership in order to get that ticket. It is only 99 cents to grab a membership. So we will drop the link. If you want to get in that drawing for a ticket for tomorrow's game against the Cleveland Browns, we will drop the link. Go ahead and become a member. And if you are in the chat and a member, we will put your name on the spinner wheel at the end of the show. But let's go ahead and bring on our guest. He is a co-host over at 99.9 The Fan, the Panthers Playbook. Mr. Dennis Cox, along with Chris Lee. We don't have his sidekick with him, but let's go ahead and bring up Dennis and tell him what's going on. How you feeling tonight, man?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, Doug. You appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir, man. How are you feeling, man? What's been going on your end of the stick, man?
You know, feeling good. I'm excited that we're actually getting games. I'm excited that we're actually seeing teams play against other teams. That's something I'm excited about because, you know, it means football season's here. That's the thing I'm excited about. Football season's actually here. We can quit speculating and let's actually start seeing something happen.
Yes, sir, man. I think FanFest gave us a taste with fans being able to be there and actually not being at the practice. Now having the first game in the bank, I think it's the perfect time where I think fans will fill the stands, but also we need to put a product on the field. And that's what we're here to talk about. Joint practice, stock watch, and also the preview of playing the Cleveland Browns on tomorrow night. So let's go ahead and do some household cleaning before we go ahead and start. Shout out to our sponsor over here, which is SeatGeek. If you become a new member with SeatGeek, don't forget to use the code What's Up, Doug. You get $20 off your first ticket purchase. Again, shout out to our sponsor, SeatGeek. Football season is here. This is where I get my tickets from. They show you from worst to best scenario for seats, also scale to 1 to 10. But shout out to our sponsor, SeatGeek. Again, do not forget the code What's Up Dub and get $20 off your first ticket purchase. All righty. So let's go ahead and get into it, Dennis. Training camp recap. Starters are up. Yes, Dave Canales has said that starters will possibly play at least one series. He wants that series to be a lone series. Just depends on, hopefully they don't go 3 and out, because I think that'll be a problem with certain starters not playing for the Cleveland Browns. But let's go ahead and go into the joint tape slide right here, man. So I had 3 bullet points, and I'm going to read a quote, and then I'm going to see what you say, then we'll go ahead and spit it off each other. First, Icy Bryce. Bryce had a day. Yes, he had up and downs, but based off of what I was able to hear, I felt like Bryce had a very solid day. The run defense, a lot of you guys are saying that the run defense looked night and day. We're able to stop the run at the line of scrimmage and also not going for big gains, which we saw last year throughout the season. And my last take, I think, is great, is that there were a few drops, but we have a good problem, meaning that there's wide receiver depth in this room now. We don't have to worry about going to get another wide receiver from somebody else, or, not having multiple weapons for Bryce Young. But let me read this quote, and I'm going to hand it off to you, Dennis. And this is from Myles Garrett. He said, he has a lot of confidence. Guys are rallying around him. I think he can really lead this team and do well. The game-changing and playmaking ability never left. It's just being about him being more confident and being comfortable, and guys allowing him to lead and standing behind him. So with everything going on from practice to joint practice, how did you feel about the joint practice with the Cleveland Browns on yesterday?
Well, let's go and hit that first bullet point with Bryce Young. I think from reading what David Canales is talking about and about how the day as a whole went, is that overall Bryce had a strong day. But I want to make sure I point this back to people from last year against the New York Jets in joint practice. Bryce looked great. People were talking about, hey, Bryce cooked against the Jets in the joint practice and so on and so forth. So one thing you got to keep in mind is these are still controlled situations. These are still like, hey, we're 7-on-7s. Hey, we're still doing 11-on-11, and we're intentional about red zone. So again, these are controlled situations where coaches are right there on the field with you. So after a snap, they can pull you aside and, kind of coach you through something, whatever it might be. You're not going to get that fully in game situation. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But they weren't perfect, which kind of gets into maybe your third point a little bit about the drops. I know Tetairoa McMillan had a drop on a 7-on-7 where Bryce Young actually put it on his back shoulder, and McMillan just really wasn't expecting it to be there, but that's the place where it needed to be. But I think they're trusting him, like, okay, now you know that it can come right there on that back shoulder in game-like situations. So now he's expecting it going forward. But I'm okay with a few mistakes at this time of year because, again, we haven't played that first preseason game yet. That's not until tomorrow. If you are in mid-season form now, that's not a good thing because other teams are going to catch up with you and surpass you as the season is going along.
Yeah, I feel like the problem. Let me read our first super chat again. Shout out to Flame for Jesus becoming a new member again. We will be doing a members only ticket giveaway for tomorrow's game, and then this is for you right here. Dennis, it says hit the like button on the way, and shout out to 99.9 the fan. So you got a fan in the chat, man. I'm so tired of the whole thing of everything sitting around Bryce. We have other issues other than Bryce Young, but for Bryce to show and Dave Canales coming out saying that, hey, Bryce is the game is starting to slow down. Basically, Bryce is understanding the game. Bryce is understanding the playbook. We're starting to see it. Like, got a couple of highlights too. Let me show this. That's one, and then the other one I had right here with Etzel. Like, the thing for me is we have to remember Bryce is a ball placement type quarterback. People want a gunslinger. People want this big arm quarterback. I understand it, but Bryce is going to put the ball right where it needs to be for his weapon. And we're starting to see that. And I think hopefully we have a successful drive. I don't want a field goal on tomorrow. And that opening drive with Bryce being on the field, I definitely want a touchdown. But like you said, we need to build up. Like, I think a lot of people are upset about the whole depth chart. we're not going to throw everything out there. I mean, you have to earn your spot, but I'm loving like just the chemistry and the growth that we saw from last year going to this year, that Bryce can be that guy. Bryce is the guy, the reason why we drafted him and what he's showing.
I think one of the things with Bryce is, I noticed this when I went back to minicamp back in June. It felt like the offense picked up kind of where it left off. And that's actually a byproduct of all the continuity that they're having, because you got to think this is the first time that the Carolina Panthers have had the same head coach and play caller since Ron Rivera was head coach. And so it's been a minute. So I asked both Dave Canales and Chuba Hubbard about this during minicamp, about having continuity. And Dave Canales, to paraphrase what he said, but their terms that he used, he said, last year we were teaching words of a new language. Now we're speaking in sentences. Yep. And even Chuba Hubbard, when I asked him about it, because this is the first time in Chuba Hubbard's career that he's had the same offensive play caller for back-to-back seasons. He hasn't had that in his career. Neither has Ike Ekwonu. He hasn't had that. Bryce Young hasn't had that. Gosh, Bryce Young has had, had 3 different play callers, and by the time he actually got into his, when he got benched last year. So he's had so many people's voices in his ears. A lot of these guys have. Same with Tommy Tremble. And Chuba Hubbard talked about, the first time in his career as well, having, again, the same play caller, the same head coach, the same philosophy. And it's only going to benefit so much going forward. When you look at, for example, in this preseason game where they're watching tape, or in a game in, let's say week 5, they can say, hey, guys, remember last year when we played Arizona and we saw this? Remember, guys, last year when we played the Giants and we saw this? Remember last year against the Eagles when we were in this situation? Remember against the Chiefs last year when we were in this situation? From an offensive standpoint. And pretty much everyone in that locker room can go, yeah, I can remember that, because they were all there. Now, obviously, there's a couple new pieces added in. You got Mitchell Evans, the tight end. You got Tedero McMillan, Jimmy Horn Jr. as wide receivers, Rico Dowdle coming in. But your entire offensive line and all their key backups are all back. Tremble's back. Jatavian Sanders now year 2. Leggett year 2. Thielen's obviously back. Coker's in year 2. David Moore, Chuba. There's so much continuity on the offensive side of things. I think that's what you're talking about with Bryce Young in terms of he's able to process stuff quicker. He's able, because he has a full grasp of the offense, and they can continue to grow and build that offense together. And just the chemistry with his wide receivers is going to continue to come with time.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I think we're going to see you have different body types. If somebody asked me a question on another platform, if we didn't draft if we didn't draft Tedero McMillan, how do you feel about the wide receivers? I feel like Tedero McMillan was just a plus, because now you think Jalen Coker, everybody's sleeping on Jalen Coker. Jalen Coker has not been getting a lot of noise. Jimmy Horn, we're going to play a clip when we talk about the stock where you were talking about Jimmy Horn. You look at Adam Thielen, Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow is sitting out right now due to injury. Mm-hmm. But like you said, when we go to the stop, that has opened up more opportunities for David Moore, Jimmy Horn Jr. More receivers are getting opportunities, and it's a good problem to have. And that was the other point right here with the joint practice. You finally have wide receivers that can cause a problem. You can't harken down on just one wide receiver. And it's showing, and it also goes with people are forgetting about the running back duo that we have. We have not had a running back duo like this since D'Angelo Williams and Jay Stu. I know people are going to say Foreman and Chuba, but for me personally, I don't think we've had a dynamic duo like we've had in years since D'Lo and Jay Stu. So speaking of,
and your point real quick on the wide receivers. One thing that Chris Lee and I talked about in the first episode of Panthers Playbook, or let's say the episode we did in the very first practice of training camp, we talked about how there's a diversity of skill set with the wide receivers, and adding McMillan into the mix allows the Panthers to have a true X receiver, big guy being up on the line of scrimmage, which they tried to do with Xavier Leggett last year, and that's where you saw his production start to slip. And I think allowing Leggett to play as a what they call the Z receiver or the flanker, someone that they can use motion and off the line of scrimmage, is going to allow his body and his physical skill set to actually really shine. So the diversity of skill set is a big thing, because you have Xavier Leggett, who's, as Dave Canales used the term, rocked up, because he's a big dude. He's stout. He's all of like the 6'1", 225 pounds, and runs the 4.39. He is physically all that. I mean, seeing him in person, standing next to him, he is all of that. McMillan, It's got the long catch radius. It's got the big body. Jalen Coker really slimmed down his body and really, changed his physique this offseason. I noticed it back in June during minicamp. I was like, he really slimmed down. He looks a step quicker. And then you add in Jimmy Horn Jr., who's small but quick. Renfro, smaller but quick. And then Adam Thielen is not as small as people think that he is, because obviously he's playing with big receivers, but he's not a small guy in and of himself. So there's a diversity of skill sets in what these guys can do. Route running, from pass catching, body types. And then you also throw in there pass catchers with Ja'Tavion Sanders, who said last year he played at 255, slimmed down to 238 now.
Yeah.
The guy looks quicker, looks felt. I'm not going to lie. The diversity, the wide array of targets and skill sets can only add to what the offense is going to be. And having McMillan as part of the mix is going to allow others guys' roles to change. Like I said, Xavier Legette doesn't have to be an X receiver on the line of scrimmage. Jalen Coker can float both inside and outside. So there's a lot of versatility when it comes to that offense this upcoming year.
And that goes into our next slide, which is stock report. But I'm going to shout you out because I've been paying attention to the playbook, but I'm going to play a clip and then we're going to go into it.
Okay. That's why I bring up Hunter Renfro, is because it's allowing other opportunities or other reps to go to guys that are competing for receiver spots. For example, Jalen Coker getting more reps, David Moore getting more reps, and also Jimmy Horn Jr. getting more reps as well. I actually asked Jimmy Horn Jr. after the Fan Fest today about where he's improved most during training camp. We started training camp up until now, and he said the biggest part of his improvement is he's cut down on the mental errors that he had early on in training camp. Cutting down the mental errors, he said, has allowed him to be more confident, but also allowing him to play faster on a day in and day out basis. And he had a really good day today. He's also showing an ability with his speed and quickness to get open in the red zone as well. He's not just a speed guy that can get open in the middle of the field, but if he can be of value inside the 20-yard line, that's a massive thing for the Panthers offense. Again, another weapon for that offense to work with.
And that's what we were getting at when you were talking about. So let's go ahead and talk about the stock report. This is a new segment that we do over here at What's Up, Doug? And I know a couple people going to be like, the Hunter Renfro means that he didn't lose any stock. That yellow means no loss. He's just at middle ground. But Jimmy Horn Jr., Lathan Ransom, and one that I think whose stock has fallen down due to injuries, Chandler Zavala. But you just talked about it in that clip about Jimmy Horn feeding off, the opportunities. The game is slowing down for him.
The reason why I bring up Hunter Renfro is because
Lathan Ransom also looking like the game's starting to slow down. I think he had one of his best practices before the joint practice, but also looked good doing the joint practice.
Yeah, he did.
So for me, I'm loving where you finally have rookies impacting your team right now. It doesn't mean that they have to start, but you're starting to see it. Cam Jackson had a couple of good reps, had learning reps as well. Princely Human Yellen didn't look good or in one-on-ones and offense and D-line, but when it came to team, looked well. Nick scored in the highlights. It was starting to get back to his speed. So we're finally looking at players that we draft that can actually come in and produce. Some may be starters. Some are going to have quality reps that we need. But for me, like I said, these are just 4 candidates right now that I think stock is trending up and some that are going down.
So we'll start with Renfro. I think Renfro, it's, stagnant, I guess you can say, in terms of trending. I think that's pretty spot on. He's not going to play tomorrow in the preseason game. My guess, based off everything we've been told, is that I think they're gearing him up to be ready to go next week, full go at practice next week, getting ready for that preseason game against the Houston Texans, along with their joint practice that they have with the Texans as well next week. I think that's the target date and the goal, because let's not forget Nick Scorton had a little small hamstring injury right around the same time that Renfro went out with his, and Scorton's been back at practice. He actually participated full in the joint practice, and we should see him play tomorrow in the preseason game. I'll just kind of go down the list here. Yeah, Jimmy Horn Jr., as we just talked about, things are trending up with him because even in practice, there's more snaps now available, more reps at practice with Hunter Renfro dealing with the injury. So that's definitely a boost for him as well. Lathan Ransom, Chris and I, we actually talked about it on our episode of Panthers Playbook that dropped today. He's actually up in Cleveland at a conference, National Association of Black Journalists, the NABJ, up in Cleveland. And there's a guy by a former Ohio State player who played in the NFL for about 5-6 years by the name of Jay Richardson, who's a defensive lineman, now covers Ohio State and covers college football. So he has a pretty intimate knowledge of Lathan Ransom. And when Chris was talking to Jay Richardson about him, Jay Richardson said, since you cover the Panthers, he kind of reminds me of Kurt Coleman. Remember, Kurt Coleman actually had his best years in his career, 2015, 2016, 2017. In 2015, he had 7 interceptions. And he feels like Lathan Ransom could eventually become a Kurt Coleman type player for the Panthers as a free safety, possibly. I'm like, if that's the case, I'm all in. I'm 100% all in if Lathan Ransom become a Kurt Coleman, especially for a guy that was a 4th-round pick that a lot of people were surprised that he actually slid into day 3 of the draft. So stock is definitely rising for Lathan Ransom. The question is, when they actually get into game situations, does the speed of the NFL game, how quickly can he adapt to that? And could he be that starting safety opposite of Trayvon Merrick? That's something to be determined as well. Your final guy that you had on there, Chandler Zavala, the stock down is definitely a thing as well. I know Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer definitely mentioned that as well, because here's a couple things to keep in mind when it comes to Chandler Zavala, is that the center position battle between Austin Corbett and Cade Mays, whomever loses that battle can also play guard. Correct. Like, those guys are guards as well. So there might be a situation, depending on how the knee is, if he starts the year on injured reserve, you never know. There might be an injury buyout settlement possibly that can go on. And whoever doesn't win the starting center battle, you still have, let's say it's Cade Mays, is the backup guard, center. Brady Christensen can play anywhere on the offensive line, and you still have Josh Nyman. And who's to say you don't add in another offensive lineman and keep it to the mix as well? Someone that's already on your roster to be that 9th offensive lineman. So Chandler Zavala is kind of in a bit of a tough spot with the knee injury. It's just really bad timing because there's a lot of versatility up front with some of those guys that the Carolina Panthers have, which is a good thing. The Panthers have put themselves in a good situation where they can handle an injury like that to someone on their offensive line because of the depth that they've built up.
Correct, man. So you got another fan. Nakari said, Dennis, it's time to add the growl back to the playbook intro.
Oh, we might have to do that.
And then he said for a couple of other players, stock up is Corey Thornton. We have him highlighted later, and Bryson Tremaine stock up. Nakari, you're hot right now because there's 2 players we want to talk about later as well. And then I guess he said Shirley stock down. Unfortunately, Bam stock up. I have to see Bam actually in pads and actually play, like you said, like with Lathan Ransom. We have to see them play tomorrow to actually understand exactly how they look in a game-like environment. And then 99, the Roar podcast. That's Big Cat. Appreciate you reposting the stream, man. Definitely appreciate you for that, man. Let's see. So, did we miss any other stock up or stock down before we go into the preview for tomorrow?
Actually, a guy who's getting a lot of praise right now is Thomas Nkoum, the outside linebacker who actually joined the Panthers during the season last year. Now is actually 2nd year with the system, actually fully knows it. He's actually getting a lot of praise as outside linebacker. DJ Johnson, the 3rd-year player, dealt with a hip injury for a little bit during training camp. He's back practicing, but allowed, and with also Scorton being a little bit banged up as well, it allowed Nkoum to get even more reps. And I think he might be a guy that could push DJ Johnson for that number 5 outside linebacker spot. I think that's someone that you might potentially could see make the roster because he's also trusted in special teams as well. So that's there's a little bit of a roster battle, I guess you can say, between Thomas Nkoum and DJ Johnson. You can say that as well. So he's a guy that's actually getting a lot of love as well. But we're talking back end of the roster type deal. But nonetheless, I mean, that's someone whose stock is going up a bit for sure. And you mentioned the Claude and Chairless. Unfortunately, with the injury, with the groin injury, we'll see what comes of that. But that's unfortunate because he's a guy that was a trusted special teams guy as well.
Yeah. So time to preview now the Shador show.
Okay.
The Cleveland Browns basically have announced that, with all the backlash and everything, media, that Shador Sanders will be starting on tomorrow night. A couple of highlights that I have, and then we'll elaborate on, is stopping the run. You got Jerome Ford, P. Ryan Strong Jr., and Dylan Sampson. That's, again, we stopped it in joint practice. I need to see it underneath the lights with the crowd behind you, and et cetera. Wide receiver and defensive battle on both sides of the ball for the Carolina Panthers is very important. Again, with our starters playing one possession, who's going to step up? I haven't heard Kobe Hudson. I haven't heard what's the other wide receiver that we got? Is the one from George. I can't think of his first name, out of Miami. I can't think of his name. Once you talk,
Jacoby George.
Yes. But then also we have how many turnovers and sacks will we get? I want to see what our young dogs would do, meaning Princely, Human Yellen, Weaver, Nick Scored. I don't know how much he will play coming off that hamstring, but I want to see what pressure we bring on Shador and Hutley playing tomorrow in a special teams battle. I really feel like I'm gonna come Cam up with Jimmy Horn. I want a special teams touchdown. That is one thing I cannot wait to talk about. Either a kickoff or a punt. I really think we can get a punt more than kickoff, but I would jump through the TV if I could to celebrate if we get any type of special teams touchdown tomorrow. But what you got a couple of takes for tomorrow, Dennis?
So I'm looking at for tomorrow, a couple things that I want to see is I want to see the interior of that defensive line that's been revamped. I know Derek Brown's probably not going to play tomorrow, which is totally understandable. Still recovering from the knee a little bit, with a little bit of that oblique rib injury that Dave Canales talked about. We probably won't see him, but I'm excited to see what Bobby Brown III can do. I'm excited to see what Turk Wharton can do, Ashawn Robinson. I'm excited to see what those guys, and even Cam Jackson. I know someone gave a shout out to Cam Jackson as well there in the chat. I'm excited to see what these guys can do in terms of a run stopping standpoint, because we all know that the rush defense for the Panthers last year was just completely non-existent. Call it what it is. It wasn't there. There's so many times where the running back was getting 3-4 yards upfield before he even getting touched. And unfortunately, because the Derek Brown injury and just the personnel wasn't there. Shy Tuttle last year was forced to play as a nose tackle. He's not built to play nose tackle. He's a rotational interior defensive lineman. I got no problem him playing with that role, but he was asked to do more than what he's capable of doing. I want to see what that interior defensive line can do. If they can stop the run, even with the loss of Josie Jewell, it's going to make life so much easier for Christian Roseboom and Trevin Wallace on the interior. That's what I want to see from Turk Wharton and those guys up front. That's what I'm most excited to see, what that revamped defensive line can bring. And then even add, the outside linebackers, Pat Jones into the mix as well. Or even, Princely Umamielen, like you mentioned, Nick Scorton. I want to see these guys and how well they can actually reset the line of scrimmage. Make it 2nd and 8. Make it 2nd and 9. Make it a 3rd and 7 type situation. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so ready for football that it's like I don't know which way it could go, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's gonna go good or bad. And we might as well talk about players, because I mean we're almost coming. This is our last slide of the night. Is players to watch. And I mean Jimmy Horn. And like I said in the car, you are on it. Like Jimmy Horn is 1. Cam Johnson's my next. Bryson Tremaine is my 3rd. And then 4th is Corey Thornton. These are the 4 players that I'm going to be paying attention to. And throughout preseason, we will be trying to rotate. It won't be the same players. But I think these 4 players I'm going to have my eye on. Jimmy possibly taking over or showing that electric speed that he have on special teams. Cam Jackson making reps where he can come into the fold of being a rotational piece and not just sitting out his rookie year. Bryson Tremaine, I think, is going to be the only practice squad member up here right now due to that room being so deep. And then Corey Thornton coming out of Louisville, being undrafted. A lot of people are comparing it to how we got Jalen Coker. I love how we're finding gems in undrafted outside the draft, and they're actually making an impact on this team. So those are my 4. What do you have, Dennis?
I like those 4. I'll touch on each of these guys one second. I think Cam Jackson is a guy that's going to be a good depth rotation guy on the interior of the defensive line. I really like that as a draft pick because he's a massive individual and very difficult to move. If you're going to run a base 3-4 defense, you need to have a strong nose tackle. hence why they signed Bobby Brown, hence why they drafted Cam Jackson. Jimmy Horn Jr., most likely, my guess is going to get a lot of run with the second unit out there when Andy Dalton and that crew is out there, probably Coker and David Moore. But yeah, I want to see that speed for real. I want to see him out there in the return game. Bryson Tremaine is an interesting one. He's actually slightly taller, I think, than Teteroa McMillan. Like, they're both 6'4", 6'5". I think he's a perfect candidate for the practice squad because, like you mentioned, there's a lot of depth out there on the team. And don't be shocked, Corey Thornton, with J.C. Horn not playing tomorrow, if you see him out there a lot. And I mean, with the starters out there, it might be Shamar Bartholomew, but don't be surprised if you see Corey Thornton getting a lot of playing time tomorrow as well. And he has that physical size that the Panthers want in their corners. You know, Mike Jackson is, 6'1", 205, 210. J.C. Horn, similar type build. These long, athletic, big cornerbacks that can handle some of the larger receivers that they're going to face in the NFL. And they're going to be, I'm not sure who Cleveland's going to play tomorrow, how much, but Jerry Jeudy's not a pushover as someone to cover. Deontay Johnson, as much of a headache as he was with the Carolina Panthers, is still not a pushover of a wide receiver for these guys to cover. So these guys are going to be getting some good quality reps as well. A couple players that I'm excited to see tomorrow. Obviously, Teteroa McMillan. I just want to see the rookie out there against someone else. But Lathan Ransom and Trayvon Merrick. Seeing Trayvon Merrick at practice, even back in minicamp in June, he gets up towards the line of scrimmage. He's great in the run game. That's someone I'm excited to see out there on the field because I think he can help fill gaps in the run game as well if he can step up and read the plays the way he's known to have done it with the Vegas Raiders. I think this can help in the run game so much because he can come up and make a tackle. If running back hits through the defensive line, okay, he can help the linebacking core by stepping up and make a tackle and big runs don't take place. But Lathan Ransom, again, we talked about him earlier. I want to see what this guy can do out there on the field. I really want to see if he can play a deep free safety position because that spot in my mind is pretty wide open.
So, I mean, that's our last slide. So before we do our giveaway, and I know you got to head out.
Sorry, we can stick around for a little bit.
Okay. I mean, we got a question too. Somebody asked a question.
Go for it.
Mr. Honky Dory, appreciate the question. He said, in theory, has the offense improved enough to run without Bryce at the helm and remain competitive? Have enough improvements been added and adjustments made?
Okay, so as improved enough, improved enough to run without Bryce at the helm and remain competitive. I think so. We saw Andy Dalton last year step in right away and drop receiver in AJ Green in the past with Cleveland. Like he can throw to a guy like Teteroa McMillan. That to me is not going to be an issue at all.
You have to be a member. Again, once I see that you're a member, you want the ticket, we'll have you drop a 1 in the chat. And I'll the winner, just write your email in the chat. So I'm gonna drop it again. But we appreciate Dennis Cox from 99.9 The Fan, the Panthers Playbook. Somebody said right here, make sure you tune in to 99.9 The Fan on YouTube and type on YouTube. Oh man, so Mr. Honky Dory just gave away 20 memberships to the chat.
Oh dang! All right.
So if you have a membership, you need to thank Mr. Honky Dory for dropping that membership on you so you can get those free tickets. And over here, Diz, we have a little song for our members over here. And shout out to Nakari Leggett that made the song for us, man.
Plate. What's up? Doug with the hot plate. Doug, cooking up. Doug cooking up. What's up?
So I appreciate that again, Mr. Honky Dory. Again, if you are not a member, and yes, CJ, that's what we call him. He is the MVP of giving out memberships on people's channels. So
shout out Mr. Honky Dory.
Again, if you have any questions, while we have Dennis right here, he's another person that's been boots on the ground. And then CJ, I will play once I make this comment again. If you have any questions, he's here free. Just like we had Vashon last week. We have people that are actually at practice that if you guys have a question, us content creators aren't there. We're asking them, talking to them behind the scenes. So if you have a question, definitely ask him right here while he's available. But I'll ask you this, Dennis. What score do you think we can possibly have for the outcome on tomorrow?
What score? Oh my gosh, I mean, preseason is so
I know,
unpredictable.
and I know, I know.
I honestly, it would not surprise me if we had a like a kind of a more low scoring. Like honestly, it would not surprise me if we had, just because the Browns QB situation is just a completely total just crazy mess. It would not surprise me if we had like a 21-14 type game. Panthers scoring 3 touchdowns. It would not surprise me if that was the case. I hope it's early on. The Panthers have nice 9-10 play drive where you can mix and match personnel a little bit. Chuba Hubbard gets a couple carries. Rico Dowdle gets a couple carries. Bryce targets, Thielen once, Leggett a couple times, targets Jatavian Sanders, targets, Tedero McMillan, and that these guys, all get a touch of the football a little bit, and then they would go down the field and score. I would love that to see that opening drive, but I think Andy Dalton's going to play a little bit as well, and he's obviously capable as a QB too, but I think, a 21-17 type game really, really kind of makes sense.
All right, so we got a question, and this is from another Panther content creator, Carolina's armchair GM CJ. He will, I appreciate him dropping that. He said, Dennis, do the new additions on the D-line make you feel like they will be better?
The cynical answer is, say, can you get much worse? Let's be honest here. That was an historically bad defense. I'm very bullish on the additions that they made because, as I said earlier, with Bobby Brown in the mix, if you want to run a base 3-4 defense, the linchpin has to be your nose tackle. Like, you have to have someone that can't get moved on the interior of that defensive line. And that is what Bobby Brown's was brought in to do, was to be that anchor in the middle. And that's why Cam Jackson was brought in to, if Bobby Brown needs a spell, he needs to go in there. Guess what? He can anchor right down there in the middle of the field. Or if there's a short yardage situation, guess what? The interior of the offensive line is not going to just shove guys back into the linebackers anymore. Seeing Bobby Brown, and here's the thing about Bobby Brown as well. I know I keep calling him a nose tackle. He has the ability to slide around in different parts of the defensive line as well. And I think that's a versatility that is going to be brought. A'Shawn Robinson's a really good player. Unfortunately, A'Shawn last year just simply played too many snaps because of the lack of depth that they had at the defensive line, and he just kind of wore down as the season went along. But A'Shawn Robinson playing less snaps is going to make him a more effective player because you have Derek Brown, A'Shawn Robinson, Turk Wharton, Bobby Brown, Cam Jackson. These guys can all rotate in together. That, to me, is going to make this defensive line more effective. And also, you can use them in different situations. If it's a passing situation, 3rd and 11, hey, Turk Wharton can be out there along with Derek Brown. Or if it's a run-stopping situation, it's A'Shawn Robinson and Bobby Brown are out there. And there's so much versatility that Ejiro Evero can have with that defensive line. So, yes, I think the defensive line is going to be, in my eyes, all health, being healthy is a massive thing, is going to be so much more improved. And it's only going to help the defense as a whole.
That's a fact. All right, CJ, I'm not answering that question first because I don't have a hate. They're going to say in the chat I have a hate for Shy Tuttle, Dennis.
I've picked that up. Apparently Shy Tuttle's a cuss word. So thankfully, no FCC violations out here.
So here, let me ask, Two Rounds Run War is another Panther content creator. I definitely appreciate you pulling up. He said, what do you think is more likely? We keep 7 wide receivers or 4 running backs? Asking because of Raheem being number 1 kickoff / punt return, but 4th string on punt return.
I would say it's more likely that 7 wide receivers are kept because Raheem Blackshear is simply special teams return guy. You're not going to really see him in the offensive mix, especially with ETN being brought in. Jimmy Horn can return kicks. David Moore can return kicks. Hunter Renfrow can return punts. They have plenty of guys. I mean, we saw even Xavier Leggett as part of the kick return unit last year as well. There are so many guys that can do what Raheem Blackshear does. Mm-hmm. And I think you don't want, here's something to keep in mind as well. Injuries at other positions can sometimes necessitate keeping an extra body at one of those spots, which would then, okay, where do you have to take a roster spot away? To me, in my eyes, I think 7 can definitely make it. To be determined, again, if there's an injury, for example, tight end, do you keep an extra tight end because Tommy Tremble's dealing with the back injury? Okay, are you taking away then a wide receiver as a result? Or do you need to keep an extra inside linebacker because of Claude Cherilus' injury? Okay, in that case, do you take away a running back? In order to keep one spot, you have to sacrifice another area. To me, I don't see Raheem Blackshear making this team, at least on the initial 53. I think he's someone that you can easily put on the practice squad. But if you don't keep 7 wide receivers, I think the odd man out, because there's a little of math involved with this. David Moore is a vested veteran in the NFL. If he's on your roster week 1, his salary for the entire season is fully guaranteed as a vested veteran. And I talked to Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer about this. And he told me that, David Moore basically just wants to play for Dave Canales. Dave Canales, obviously, those two guys go back all the way to their time in Seattle. They were together in Tampa Bay and obviously here with Carolina. Is that if you release David Moore, he doesn't have to clear waivers because he's a veteran. He just immediately becomes a free agent. But he's likely not to sign away with another team, that you can easily put him back on your practice squad with the practice squad rules the way that they are, and then you can just elevate him up week 2, and then he can use him in that sort of way. So to me, I don't see 4 running backs making this roster, because Raheem Blackshear's skill set in my mind is a little bit redundant compared to what some of these other guys can do that can offer more than what he's bringing.
And then I'm not putting it on the screen. They want to know, is Shy Tuttle playing out of position?
Shy Tuttle was last season. Shy Tuttle's not in like nose tackle, head up on the center type player. He's just not built for that. As a 3-4 interior defense lineman, like I guess you can call them like DNs, I guess you could say, in a 3-4. To me, he's built to play on the outside shoulder of the guard, in the 3 technique. That's really where I think he's built to play. And if he's in a rotation piece of that, or a 4-eye, which is on the inside shoulder of the tackle, if he's somewhere in that area as a rotational guy that's, come in and play 15 snaps, that's perfectly built for Shy Tuttle in my eyes. So yes, he did play he played out of position last year. Not his fault. Not his fault.
All right. We got another content creator, Clay. Appreciate you pulling up. He said, Dennis, I think it's a huge red flag how much they are rotating free safety position. What's your thoughts? Because Ransom, to me, has been the standout for that position.
I'm okay with them rotating guys right now because, again, we haven't played in a preseason game yet. I think it's going. They have 3 weeks to figure this out. I think rotating those guys in at that position, Nick Scott, Damani Richardson, Lathan Ransom, I think is a good thing, because you never know with the first of all, who's going to be able to take over as that starter. But if Trayvon Merritt goes down, you want Lathan Ransom to be able to possibly step up and be that strong safety. If there's an injury back there at free, you want, a lot of guys to be able to step into different roles. Something to keep in mind as well, I forget who it was that wrote about it this offseason, that Ejiro Evero doesn't really start and plays young guys a whole lot early on. Now, sometimes these young guys that start, rookies that come in and start, usually start out of necessity. That's eventually what becomes of it. So don't be surprised if Lathan Ransom does not start the year as the starting free safety. Now, I think Lathan Ransom eventually can become that. Does he have the speed, and how quickly does he pick up the speed of NFL offenses? How quickly does he pick up the defense and his assignments and those kinds of things? But, I mean, the guy was a stud player at Ohio State that won a national championship game. This guy's not a pushover of a player. I think we got to be patient with some of these rookies. And I'll kind of get to this as a little bit as a whole, Doug. Let's keep in mind that this team is still relying on a lot of really, really young players to play right away. If you look at the pass catchers, for example, McMillan, first-year player. Horn, first-year player. Leggett, second-year player. Coker, second-year player. Sanders, second-year player. Mitchell Evans, first year as a rookie. Bryce Young is just in his 3rd year as well. I understand that there's a lot of high investment into some of these guys and some of these positions, but they're still super young and are still figuring it out on the fly as you go. There are going to be growing pains with this team. Yes. That's why I say this team is, in my eyes, is a 7-9 win team, because there's going to be a lot of growing pains still with this team. There's going to be weeks where Terrell McMillan struggles. There are going to be some times where Xavier Leggett is going to struggle a little bit. to me, there are still going to be growing pains. You're asking rookie second and third round pick and Nick Scorton and Princely Umamielen to play important roles for you all this season. They're gonna make mistakes. Let's keep that in mind about this team.
Yeah, all right. We're gonna do a couple of more. Nick Short, I appreciate you. And I saw your comment, man. I definitely appreciate you. We definitely growing over here, man. He said, Dennis, what is the position group you have the most concern about? As many moves we've made defensively, I think we are still a year away.
I agree with you on terms of being a year away. I think that 2026 is really going to be the year where they can, like, all right, playoffs. Now they could potentially push for one this year. We all know the NFC South ain't good. And you just need a couple of things to break your way. But I think, yeah, I agree. 2026 might be the year. But I think the growth of this team, you're going to see it. You're going to see growing pains, but you're going to see a lot of growth this season as well. The position group that does concern me the most really is the secondary. Just corners and safeties as a whole. We don't know who that free safety is going to be. Is it Damani Richardson, a second-year guy that was an undrafted free agent out of Texas A&M? Is it Lathan Ransom, the rookie fourth rounder, which again, still super young players. They're going to make mistakes. Nick Scott was a backup at safety last year on a defense that really wasn't any good at all. And then even at corner, I know that the team is very high on Shamar Bartholomew. I know the team feels very high about their secondary, much more than any of us really do. But the team's very high on Shamar Bartholomew. They feel like they found a good one in Corey Thornton. Charles Smith-Wade has been excellent this offseason.
Phenomenal.
He's been excellent this offseason. Even seeing him at mini camp and in the preseason, or during training camp, I should say, he's been great, which is a great find. But we all know J.C. Horn's injury history. It's a long one. He's only played in 37 of 68 possible games. So to me, the secondary and the depth at secondary is a major concern.
All right, 3 more. And Akari, I did not skip your question. I thought you were joking. So Eli Apple supposedly got released. He wants to know, is there a chance we sign Eli Apple? And I appreciate that, Nakari.
Only if I get to interview his mom. That's it. I interviewed Jalen Coker's mom last year. If I get to interview Eli Apple's mom, then sure, then bring him along.
All right, 2 more. My last question, will in theory there will be more pressure on the quarterbacks, also more in different types of blitzes?
Okay, my last question. In theory, there will be more pressure on the QBs, also more.
Are you asking Mr. Honky Door?
I think he's just simply making a statement.
Okay.
It seems like you're making a statement.
Let me see, because I saw something else. What's going on, PPP? We got another Panther content creator in here, Dennis. What's up, my guy? And no, Quantum, I do not have a haircut. I'm getting a haircut next week. Your boy just got to stay fresh, man. Let me see. And I did see
someone ask if I'm going to be at the game tomorrow. Yes, I will be there at Bank of America tomorrow.
Okay, here's this one. Does Ejiro Evero finish 2025 season?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good question, Steve-O. I want to say yes, and I hope it's yes, because if it's yes, that means this team is competitive and in games. If he doesn't finish the season, that means this season might have been a disaster. And that's something I don't want to see. I think he does finish the season. Now, let's keep in mind, he's in the last year of his contract with the team. So they can just let him walk at the end of this season with no problem, not, fire him. Just be like, all right, your contract's up. Good luck, that's a really, really good question. I think that he does finish the season, but there's a lot riding on his shoulders because the fact that they signed all the guys on the interior defensive line that we've mentioned, the fact that they drafted 2 edge rushers for him, they drafted another interior defensive lineman for him, they drafted a safety for him. They did a lot to revamp the personnel on the defense. So yeah, now it's on Evero to make it fit, make it all work.
And then PvP shouted back out. He shouted you back out. Said, "What's going on, Dennis?" Somebody, you did see that question about, are you going to the game? So I think, again, like I said, I appreciate you coming up, Dennis. Again, go ahead and shout out. I know where you're at. Definitely let people know if they do not know where you and Chris Lee are at, where they can find you at.
I did see this last one here from Nick. This Nick thoughts on Bryce Young being a make or break.
I'll pull it up.
I think
what are
this
your
is
thoughts
really
on this being a make or break year for Bryce?
I think the same thing you talk about Evero. I think the similar thing about Bryce Young is that the fact that he has the same play caller, obviously, but they brought back his entire offensive line. Now, the offensive line, there's some questions in regards to pass blocking for the offensive line. Because last year, I think they were ranked 31st in the NFL as an offensive line in terms of the pass block win rate, the offensive line was, but they were 10th in the NFL in run block win rate. So we know what they can do running the ball. But you had another first-round draft pick wide receiver come in. You obviously got another tight end. So they drafted 2 tight ends for you. They drafted 2 first-round wide receivers for you. You got the veteran in Thielen. You got the same play caller. You know you got the solid run game. To me, this is Bryce Young's got to prove that he's the franchise guy this season. Simple as that. He's got to prove he's the franchise guy. Because as much as we want to glaze about the last 6 weeks of the season last year, or even those 10 starts, if you want to even go back that much further, as much as we want to talk about how well the season ended last year, we can't ignore those first couple of weeks where he got benched. You simply can't ignore. I remember being at Bank of America week 2 against the Chargers, where he didn't throw a pass that went further than 10 yards downfield. And I don't say that as like I say that with an actual factual basis in the sense of, if you look at the throw chart, no pass went further than 10 yards downfield. Just simply that. Nothing traveled that far. That still happened last year. As much as we love the 5-touchdown game against Atlanta, we can't ignore what happened early on in the season. Those are all things that you have to keep in mind when it comes to this. I think this is Bryce has to show that he can be a franchise guy, because after this season, he is eligible for a contract extension. And if he shows that he can be the guy, then the Carolina Panthers need to go on and make that decision right now.
Correct.
Or make that decision at the end of the season. Like, hey, this is our guy that we're going to sign long-term. So, yeah, this is a make or break season for Bryce Young in my mind as well. It simply is. Everything is set, ready for him to succeed. Dave Canales. Dave Canales can't tap the button of, well, let's bench him for a few weeks and then eventually bring him back for, whatever the reason might be. You can't go down that road anymore. You get one trip down that road. You get one trip down that road as a quarterback and head coach. If you go back down that road again, it's over for Bryce in my mind. So, yes, this is a prove-it year in my mind for Bryce Young. Can you do what you did the last 6-7 weeks of the season? Can you do it over 17 games?
All right, I got to put this up here, and I'm messing with you. We got a request. Like I said, you guys know we have plenty of guests over here. Somebody said, invite Dennis more often. Very intelligent replies, very well informed. So, hey, this is his first time. Like I said, he's welcome anytime. I know he has a busy schedule. We'll definitely love him to have him back over here.
Hey, man, we'll make it work. I'll come back around. We'll make it work for sure.
You got any more? Okay, let me do this while Dennis is giving his last comments. If you have a membership, write a 1 in the chat so I can put you on the spinner wheel so you can win the ticket for tomorrow's game. Again, if you want the ticket and you have a membership, I know who has a membership, write a 1 in the chat and I'll put your name on the spinner wheel while Dennis gives his closing soliloquy and closing comments. Okay. I see a couple. Go ahead, Dennis.
Okay. I guess in closing comments, like now for my final thought. I'm excited to see what this team can do. One thing I will caution Panthers fans is about this. The projected high end of some of these young players, of McMillan and Leggett, what we project these players to become, don't always anticipate that to be the instant of what they're going to be. That's why I say tamper your expectations a little bit about when it comes to what, again, some of these young players can do. I think that Umam Yellen might eventually become a double-digit sack guy. Now, if he's not that this season, that's okay. That's okay if he's not that this season. If he is, great. Fine. If you're going to do that, I ain't going to hold it back. I think Nick Scorton can be a well-rounded defensive outside linebacker for this team. But again, it's going to take time for him to grow into that role. Again, he's literally just about to turn 21 years old. Like later, like in a couple of weeks, he'll turn 21 years old. So he still has a little bit of way to go. But I will say this. Terrell McMillan drafted 8th overall, you should expect 1,000 yards this season. In my eyes, you should expect 1,000 yards this season, or at least close to it. In my mind, don't expect 1,500 because that's such a rare thing for rookies to do. I want to see this team grow as the season goes along. You're going to take your lumps with the young team. You still have a relatively young head coach and play caller, still have a relatively good, young quarterback. This team's going to take his lumps, but you want to see that growth and progress of these young players. So as they develop and you get into 2026, that's when you should expect them to take that big leap. Rookies are still rookies. McMillan's a rookie. Lathan Ransom's a rookie. These guys are still super young with what they do. Again, I think you should expect more from a second-year guy like Xavier Legette. You should expect more from a Jatavian Sanders. But these guys are still growing in what they do. They're growing physically, growing in their knowledge of the NFL. So I will say this team will take its lumps this season, but you should expect to see growth as the season goes along. I'm excited to see what this team can do. Their long-term projection is extremely high. I still am on the 7-9 win range for this team, which is still growth. 7-9 wins is still growth from a couple of years ago. We had 2.
Correct.
But you're going to see growing pains as the season goes along, but that's okay. That's okay because it's a young core that this team has put together that is bought in, that is going to grow and be the future of this team.
Hey, Risby, I appreciate that. He said we need to temper the expectations for Renfro. He's not a big Hunter Renfro fan. He thinks Hunter Renfro should not make it. But I got the names. Last call. If you are a member, you want the tickets. I'm about to share my screen, about to spin the wheel. I'm about to get Dennis out of here, man. Again, Dennis Cox from the 99.9 The Fan Show, the Panthers Playbook, has brought great intellectual thoughts and takes tonight, man. So I definitely appreciate you pulling up with us tonight, man. So again, if you want a membership, we have dropped it in the chat. I'm gonna give it one more minute, and if you want to participate, drop a 1 in the chat, and we'll go ahead and spin the wheel. I'm looking at the Ravens and the Ravens and Indianapolis Colts, and PP just said it. He said Anthony Richardson got rocked. I don't know who number 90 is for the Baltimore Ravens, but he got rocked on that sack, and he didn't take good intentions with that. So I will say this. I think this is a make or break for Anthony Richardson. I
100% agree. The fact that, I guess he got hurt again. That's what I see people are saying. It's funny how the guy that was, 6'4", 6'5", 245 pounds is the one that keeps getting hurt, but the small guy everyone was worried about with Bryce Young,
correct,
has been fine. But yes, make or break for Anthony Richardson for sure. The fact that they brought in Daniel Jones, who got fired last year by the New York Giants, who are a terrible team, and Daniel Jones is pushing him for a starting spot, ain't a good thing. Not a good thing for Anthony Richardson. It's that time, that clock has got a lot less time in it than people are thinking.
All right, so we got the wheel up. We got Panther Dog PPP, Panther Boy, Nick Short, and B. Amos. Those are the gentlemen that have asked, that have memberships and put their name in. Whoever wins, drop your email in the chat, and I will email you the ticket as soon as this live ends. Oh, hold on. I got to do this. Let me stop sharing.
Okay.
Where is it at? No, because my mother is in the chat. What's going on, Mama Dukes? I have not seen you in the chat in a minute, and I know she's going to be like, my nickname almost said it. You didn't tell me you were live. Mom, I appreciate you pulling up to the chat tonight. We're closing the show. I'll call you afterwards, but we're giving away our tickets since I won't be back home for the game. All right, let me see. So here we go. Share screen. All right, and good luck, everyone. Here we go. All right, so our winner is Panther Dog for our preseason week 1 game against the Browns. Panther Dog, drop your email in the chat so I can write it down, and I will be sending you that over with Ticketmaster. We will be doing more ticket giveaways because, as everybody knows, I don't live in North Carolina, planning a wedding and everything. So I will not be at every game. I will be back home for PvP stop. I will be back home for week 3. But Panther Dog, definitely give me your email in the chat. And again, it's your man C Dougie. We're gonna play our intro for our outro while I wait for him. But Dennis, I appreciate you. Again, you said you'll be back. I have your contact. I hope you enjoyed this live interactive with some fans that have not been able to get there. So I definitely appreciate you for pulling up, man.
Yeah, anytime. And by the way, for Panthers Playbook, we're going to drop an episode tomorrow right after the game. So be on the lookout for that. So just look up Panthers Playbook or 99.9 The Fan here on YouTube, and we'll definitely have stuff for you every single week. So every Thursday morning, we have an episode that drops, and we're going to do one after every single game as well. So we're always going to have stuff coming your way. But I'll be at the game tomorrow. Chris is out of town, but he'll be able to watch the game. But nonetheless, we'll be at Bank of America Stadium for every home game this season. That's the plan. And I don't know, we might travel to a game or two. We haven't decided yet if we're going to be able to do that or not, but we might travel to one game. But we're definitely looking forward to this season. I'm excited to see what the season can do. And Doug, thanks for inviting me and thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited about this season, man. I really do appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you, man. Let's go ahead and play this fire intro that we got from Kid Cudi, and let's get out of here.
You already know what time it is. Hey, let's go. What up, Doug? It's your anthem, homie. Let's do it. What up, Doug? 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 Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. This is go. What up, Doug? 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 Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's go. 7 points on the board. Touchdown. You can never ignore. Let's go. When we into the end zone, take a look at the score. Bryce Young out here throwing dots. O-line out here holding blocks. We too real, no Photoshop. Just a few things that Doug talk about. What up, Doug? When they see it in public, they showing them love. Uncle Quan, what's up? Panther Nation, it is time to go up. Really in the field capturing, acknowledging players who talented. Doug is bringing the analysis. The defensive beats when they tackle it. The front 7 rush got them panicking. The pressure's too much, they can't handle it. You coming to Bank of America Stadium, this is where it get challenging. You hear this song, it's time to tune in and turn it up. You gotta turn it up. If you listen and say it what time with me is, we all repeat and we scream. What up, Doug? 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 Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. This is go. What up, Doug? 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 Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's go. Let go. Let's go. Shout out to my man, what's up, Doug? Make sure y'all tune in and tap into his journey and everything that he's doing. Carolina forever, Panther Nation. It's go time, let's go. What up, Doug? Bow, bow. What up, Doug? Bow, bow. Let go.